Well, hey, I hope everyone is doing well. Hey, we're going to skip over to one of my favorite chapters in this book, chapter 15. Why? We're getting ready to come on to Thanksgiving. I'm going to give you all next week off, Thanksgiving week off. What I do not want to have you do is doing a test in the middle of a turkey coma. Okay, so I'm giving you next week off. No, the live classes have it off. Absolutely, you should get a little break too. Y'all have been working hard this semester. So that's one of the reasons we're jumping over chapter 15. The second reason is I just like chapter 15, man. Video surveillance and the kind of the cool cop stuff, right? So we're going to hop right in that chapter. We're going to talk a little bit about it. With that said, I appreciate y'all bearing with me these last 2 or 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago I had serious strep throat. I was out realistically it came on Sunday. It took me right out Sunday and it took me all the way through Friday. Got better Friday, was feeling better. Then all of a sudden the following Monday, not all of a sudden, I mean, we know what's happening for the last 9 months, but all of a sudden we have a baby on Monday. And that just kind of shuts down our lives for about a week, So we're back up and running. Baby's 2 weeks old, sleeping like 6 hours a night, so we're good to go on that. And so we're hopping right back into chapter 15. Passive surveillance. What is passive surveillance? Well, that's where we're just surveilling, okay? We're not getting involved. We're not sending people in to make buys. We are just watching a house, or we are just watching a car. Now, that doesn't mean that when the car pulls off, we let it go. We can do the following stuff. We're just not engaging or interacting with the person. Interactive surveillance means that we're surveilling them, but we're also interacting with them. We're sitting in an officer, we're wearing body wires and those kinds of things. So, vehicle tracking. So there are two primary techniques we're using for vehicle tracking right now, okay? There is a live vehicle tracking, and then there is, let me tell you exactly, there's a real-time vehicle tracking, and then the second one is like a data storage vehicle tracking. So let me tell you the difference between the two of them. And there's been some major court cases recently about vehicle tracking. Man, if you're going to do vehicle tracking, you got to have a solid warrant. It's going to have to clearly outline exactly what you're looking for time-wise. And your warrant's going to say, I want it from this time to this time, and this is specifically what we're looking at for, because it really deals with the person's privacy and where they take their vehicle. It didn't used to be that way. We were able to say, whoa, vehicle is out in the public, view. And anything that's in the public view, we should be able to track. But the courts come back and said, no, not necessarily. What that vehicle drives onto 100 acres of private property, and now you're tracking a vehicle on 100 acres of private property, which are not in the public view. And so the court has really slapped down on us and said, listen, we want you to excuse me, sorry about that. We really want a warrant for this tracking, just like a wiretap warrant. So the two types: real-time tracking. This is a much more sophisticated technique. This system is going to have to actually be wired into the car, and be able to track the vehicle using GPS and a cell phone SIMS card. So you're going to take this unit. I mean, they're pretty small. They're about this big. You hardwire into a power source in the vehicle, one of the power lines, and then you activate a SIMS card on it. Sending out a GPS signal. It's using that SIMS card to relay that signal back to your computer screen, and you're watching on your computer. Is working great, right? Nice system. Not that expensive, $600-700. What's the problem? Installation. That's the problem. You're trying to do this covert tracking, and you got to get in that vehicle and you got to install this stuff, right? And so it's a difficult process. The second time, now you don't always have to tie into the to electrical system if you only want to do a short-term tracking. So if your warrant lets you only do it for a day or whatever, well, there's self-powered systems. But if you're trying to track for a month, you're going to have to get a system that ties into the vehicle. The second one is more of a little bit of a passive system. That's just memory collection. So there's a thing called a track stick, which once again is about this big. It looks like a USB drive. I've used these personally quite a bit at my previous agencies. And so this track stick is magnetic. You can slap it to the bottom undercarriage of the car, and it will not come off. You can slide it, in the vehicle somewhere, whatever you want to do. And so the track stick, you mount it to the car, slap it in there, and it just remembers everything. And man, this battery life, it depends on how you set it. So, if I know it's going to be out there for a long time, I'm only going to set it, pick up a GPS signal every 3 minutes maybe, right? I can't watch it live. I got no idea where that vehicle's at. But when I get that stick back, I take it out, download it, and it will show me the last 2, 3, 4 months of data of where that vehicle was. And it's another really nice, effective tool. You know, problems you have, well, if they find it and take it off, you're going to have no idea where it went, you know. Another problem you have is, once again, mounting it, trying to get somewhere where they won't notice it. But it's a little bit more easier because you don't got to tie it to anything. You can just slap it underneath the vehicle somewhere, and you're good to go. With any of those GPSs, you got to kind of be cautious of not putting it too deep inside of metal containers and stuff, because you still want a GPS signal. So, vehicle tracking. Oh, photo red light camera. You know, this is a great way to track people. Those photo red light cameras are using usually a version of an LPR or an ALPR, automatic license plate reader. And so that's grabbing that license plate. It's using an infrared camera, picking up that license plate, storing that information, associating that license plate with the violators, right? And so when you're looking for, if you're working a case and you're trying to find a car, let's say you're trying to find a car that let's say you had a kidnapping, you can pull up vehicles, you know, that have driven by, you know, the last couple times, a day or whatever, and look for that plate. Let's talk about some problems with that. The ALPRs, while they are great technology, they are technology that's being developed, and there are failures. For instance, let's say the number H will sometimes come over as an 8. You know, or the number 9 will sometimes come over as an 8. You know, or the letter L will come over as an I. You know, and or sometimes Ohio plates and New York state plates get mixed. You know, and so if you only set your search parameter to that specific plate, sometimes you're not going to pick it up even though it was there. So what you need to do is set your search parameter and allow for some errors and put those errors in. Okay, you know, I know that the system sometimes has a problem reading 8s, and so here's what I'm going to say. You know, so that has to do with red light cameras. But what we're seeing even more effective is the ALP surveillance tools, is the ALPRs on the back of vehicles. Because what can you do with that? Police cars patrol. That cop car can patrol right down a specific street, and normally those ALPRs have GPS associated with them, so your GPS is recording down that street and picking up those license plate numbers all the way down. And man, it's a great technique, great thing to do. So that's another advantage. So let's say I'm looking. I know there's a drug house on Main Street. I can pull the ALPR information from Main Street for the last 3 months and look at all the plates that were there and try to associate known drug dealers and known criminals with that house. It's a great technique. In-car cameras, in 2000 it says 45% of the departments had in-car cameras. I can only imagine that it's way more than that now. It doesn't have the statistic in the book, unfortunately, but I can only imagine it's way more. I can remember in the 90s, our first in-car camera that me and my partner got for our agency. It was one of those big old VHS shoulder mount cameras that we had gotten at a garage sale. We used a radar mount, and we duct taped it to the radar mount to make it steady for us. It was before we had airbags in the cars and all that stuff, you know. So we duct taped it to the radar mount on the dashboard, and then we got ourselves a wireless microphone from our church, and hooked the base station of the wireless microphone into that big old camera, and so that you could hear audio. So that was our first dash cam, man. Things have gone crazy. Now you have a dash cam that's entirely self-contained in the rear view mirror. It has a camera going out. The rear view mirror comes on as a screen. You record everything. You pull out your SIMS card and you download it. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy, awesome things going on with dash cams. Really, what we're seeing though, and we showed it earlier in this class, is body cameras. Body cameras. That's become the wave of the future. It's really showing us some great, awesome video footage. I love the body cameras. Problem with that is that, you know, the nice thing about the dash cam is you get the overview of that car, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, maybe you're dealing with the driver while the passenger is doing a bad thing, you know, dumping weed or whatever else, you know. I can remember the first time my chief sat me down and said, I want to play you a video. And I was arresting somebody. I put him in handcuffs. I went up to the front of the car to arrest the passenger. And while I'm arresting the passenger, the guy I just put in handcuffs reaches into his back pocket, pulls out a big old bag of crack, throws it across the road. I never knew it was there, you know. And so the dash cam got that a body camera, whatever. So dash cams, love them. Great technology, great for surveillance. Closed circuit TV, so that's kind of becoming a big, huge change for us. There are still some solid closed circuit TV units out there, okay? Very, very robust, 2 terabyte, more, whatever. Can have some very good video footage, great closed circuit TV systems. But what we're really seeing is the IP camera come out, man. The IP camera is taken over. Specifically, Foscam has some great IP cameras out there that I've used for surveillance. Let me tell you, like on our campus, a great thing about the IP camera. We set that IP camera up on our network to record. I can unplug that camera and I can take it anywhere on campus and plug it into a network connection, and it still works and functions, and I can still view it live. So those IP cameras I can view live from anywhere. I can control them from my computer, move them up and down all over the place. I really like the IP camera. I think that's what we're going to see coming out in the future. Bait cars. Hey, for us on our campus, we don't have bait cars. We have bait bicycles. Listen, in the last month, our campus has seen almost $20,000 of bicycle theft. So what are we doing? We are setting up bait bikes, okay? What this does is there's a couple ways to do it. One is just have a GPS tracking unit on it. You set up a geo fence around your campus. The moment that bike leaves campus, you get an alert on your cell phone. Bait bike's been activated, and you track it down using a computer program system, a GPS system. Another way is to set up a bike that while they're driving it, it kind of shuts down. The chain will break or whatever. The problem with that we don't have the time to sit on the bike for a month and see if somebody's going to steal it. So bait bike for us, the GPS tracking works great. Bait cars, kind of big thing, but once again, you got to set up an area that is going to be picked up pretty quick, because you don't want to put a bunch of manpower on a car that you're sitting on for a month and no one steals it, right? So that's a disadvantage and advantage to the bait cars. Cool tool, but very specific, to your environment. Body wires. Realistically, audio body wires are what we're still using, and there's all kinds of ways to use that. Let me tell you, my first body wire we ever used, we got it from the sheriff's department. It was kind of used and kind of crummy, and so the problem was you got your body wire, but it's got to be able to transmit. It's only as good as the transmission, right? So for me to pick it up, I got to be in an area where I can pick up that transmission. So our first body wire, we had to be like within 200-300 feet. So we were doing a buy at this pizza place, and I was literally laying in the trunk of the car, listening to my partner, and they're buying dope. Why? Because I had to be within 200-300 feet of them, and so I had to be right in that parking lot. So the best way is I got in his trunk, he drove in, did the buy, and then we took off. But body wires are becoming more technical, more advanced. Some guys aren't even using transmit body wires. They're using devices that will just record what's going on and then taking it out. It just depends on your circumstances, where you need to be. If you need backup to be able to respond to you quickly. Of course, cell phone technology. I've seen a lot of cops using Bluetooth earpieces, and they'll just call their partner using their Bluetooth and keep it on. Good piece of technology. Problem is if you have cell phone issues or your cell phone turns off, whatever, you're going to have some problems. So body wires and video evidence is what we're going to end on. Here's an important piece of video evidence. You got to think when you're doing video evidence, chain of custody. And what is that defense attorney going to do when you present that video evidence? How is he going to handle chain of custody? If I got a bloody tool with a fingerprint on it, I want to tag that, bag it. I want to track that chain of custody, and all that. What about video evidence? What about video evidence that's on the computer, and you say, hey, just email that over to me? Man, you got to know what your court's going to say. Most courts are going to say, as long as it wasn't changed or altered, we're going to take a copy of it. But some courts are going to say, we want the original. We want you to take that 2 terabyte hard disk, seize that as evidence, and lock it up. So you got to kind of remember that. So just keep that in mind. So listen, hey, 14 minutes we've been talking. Have a great week. Enjoy your quiz. Enjoy the rest of your week and your discussion board, and have a great Thanksgiving week off. All right, we'll talk to you later. See ya.